on.
Welcome to the Summer of Stories, an interview series that goes behind the brands of entrepreneurs who were the first to do it in their families, communities, and/or industries, and uncovers the stories that embolden them to get it done. I'm Gabrielle Gwyneth, a brand storyteller, and our guest today is Giorgio Knowles, a serial entrepreneur and founder of the very first Bahamian watch brand, LuCairi. Giorgio has also launched successful ventures in the arts, fashion, and retail. These days, he applies his entrepreneurial mind to real estate and to growing Genesis Academy, his family's business. Welcome, Giorgio. I am so excited to have you with us.
Thank you. You need to add in DJ now.
Oh,
that's,
okay,
that's
DJ,
that's the new one. Yeah,
the newest of the new.
the
Yeah.
newest of the new. Yes.
So
Um,
let's go back
mhm,
way, because obviously you're
yeah.
always doing things, but I want to know what was the very first business?
So we have to go back to 2001. I was in grade 8 at the time, and in high school, a few of my friends they were packing boys at Super Value and City Market and Solomon's, and I wanted to make some money too. And it was like, oh, there's a packing boy job open up. You could come, right? And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I don't want to be a packing boy. There has to be another way for us to make some money this summer. So I came up with this idea. I said, listen, you know 10 people, I know 10 people, you know 10 people. It was six of us. I said that's 60 people. If we charge them $5 to get into a party, we can make some money. And that's how we formed the PBA, which was established in 2001. um, our very first party, yeah, we were charging, it was in the backyard at my friend's house. We were charging $5 to get in. We had built up a reputation of ourselves year in and year out. And by the time we had graduated high school, the PBA was the most well known brand in high school. Every party that we attached our name to was always a sellout and everybody attended. So we had garnered a huge following throughout our high school lives. And by the time we finished, we were charging like $25 to get into our parties. We would clear at least, think about this now, in grade 10, I'm walking away from a party with like $800,000 that we split amongst our, like individually in
Wow,
grade 10.
no
Like
way.
we we became so popular. We had bigger, well established brands seeking us out to attach our name to their events. So like Dolphin Encounters, they approached us to do a boat cruise event. They paid for everything, or we just put our name on it. We collected all the money up front at the door on that. We were in junior achievement, and all of us, a few of us, we rose to like it was called the Achievers Association, which is like the executive committee in junior achievement, which was responsible for all the events. So they would pay us to host junior achievement events. And you have to understand this, we're like 15, 16, 17, negotiating with companies, you know? And when I look back on those times, that really set the precedence for me. One, I understood how to reach a clientele. I knew who I was targeting. Two, I understood money management. Okay, if we're going to put on an event, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. We predict X amount of people are going to come. We need security, this, lights, DJ. We were doing these things when we were extremely young, and I'll be honest with you, our parents were very hands off. We were doing these things without heavy parental guidance. It wasn't like my dad was like, oh, let's manage the money, or my friend's mom, you know what I mean? It was just like we were just doing this literally on our own. And I had built up such a huge following through PBA. Um, well, sometimes I'd be embarrassed to say what PBA mean now, but
You were a teenager. You were in grade 8 when you came up with the name. That's all right. We can
yeah,
forgive you.
it means Playboy Association. But now it just means the three letters. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't it,
PBA.
it doesn't mean Playboy Association. It's just PBA. It's just the three letters now. It represents our friendship. It
Hmm.
represents our ventures. It represents our hard work throughout of high school.
Hmm.
The last party we threw in high school was called BGCSE, like the exam, and we took the BGCSE exam paper, scanned it, redid the wording on it, and we printed the flyers and we were handing them out like this back in the this before social media, this before cell phones and like texting, like this is before that. So we had to go physically go to schools and hand out our flyers. We
Mm.
would be in QC yard handing out flyers, SAC yard handing out
Mm.
flyers. We like that. That's how you promoted parties back in the day. So, but that was our biggest party to date. That was at Workers House. We like filled the whole thing, at least 1,000 people, maybe or more. And we were graduating too, so it kind of culminated with all of that
Hmm.
as well. So, graduated high school. I had a huge following. I was kind of undecided on my career choice. A lot of my friends at the time were already enrolled in college and university. I did not know what I should do with my life at that point. I know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that, but I couldn't figure out exactly which avenue and what I was going to do specifically.
So one
Um,
sec. You knew
mhm.
you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Was that through developing the parties for PBA, or before that you had the idea?
So, interested enough, my stepdad, he started multiple businesses. He had several ventures, and he would give me a lot of books to read and tapes to listen to, and that really kind of changed a lot of my mindset on being my own boss, starting my own company, not working for anybody else. I want to say it was almost more like indoctrination of how he drilled it into me to not work for nobody, try and find your own way. Um, that's the complete opposite to my actual real dad, who was a more go to school, get your degree, work for somebody, be safe, stable, don't take any risks, So I have these two sides kind of competing against each other. And it came to head when I graduated because my dad was trying to send me off to school where my brother was. And I was just like, to do IT. And I was just like, because he was like, IT is the future. You got to do IT. And I decided against that. And that kind of created a situation because obviously he still wants the best for me. He wants me to make sound decisions that can put myself in a favorable position, in life. Get an
Hmm.
education, you know what I mean? Get your degree.
Hmm.
But I just didn't think that was the plan for me. So at the time, my stepfather got me a job working in the mall in the airbrush shop with the legendary artist Stephen Davis. I tutored under Stephen. This is my first time exposed to clothing, the art of
Hmm.
clothing and designing clothing. And Stefan always had an international mindset. Like he was well traveled, and he would tell me stories of places he'd visited and things he was doing through his clothing and through his art. And that inspired me to start my own clothing brand when I was working under him, which was Conscience Clothing. This would have been 2005. So I graduated 2004. So a year later, 2005, I started Conscience Clothing. And at the time, I had no design skills. I just had the idea of it. And I just remember at the time, YouTube wasn't even like a thing. You couldn't just go watch something and learn something. You just had to like constantly try and figure out if you can design or not. So I did some courses in using Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, and I started to learn how to design. And that's when I came up with the concept of conscience, using the conch as a symbol um, on a T-shirt, and our motto was finally Bahamian lifestyle meets clothing. At that time, there was no Bahamian clothing brands did not exist. This was the first of its kind. At the time, we would have only been wearing foreign brands, Sean John, Echo, and all that streetwear. But I told myself, I said, well, okay, I have a following. People know who I am. People respect me because of my past endeavors, right? If I launched this clothing company, I'm pretty sure I could get at least 10 people to buy a shirt from me. So I didn't have any money though. I was broke. I came up with this genius idea to take pre orders. So I designed the shirts. I had them on like a little booklet. I would go to my friends and I would say, okay, select the colorway you want on your shirt. So they would say, okay, I want a blue shirt with the red logo. And they would pay me $25, that's what we were selling for, up front. At the time, the shirts cost $10 to produce. So I was able to take that 25, produce one shirt, and then purchase another shirt for inventory. And then I had a $5 profit.
Okay.
So, but the only way you actually pull that off is people having trust in you that
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to take their money
And not
and
use it.
run.
Mm-hmm.
But because I had established myself through PBA, I had already had a following. I already had deep roots. They were like, "Oh, I remember this dude. He was in high school doing the parties. Now he has a clothing brand." I was like, and it's nice shirts and like this and that. So, I mean, we were doing hoodies and hats and this, and we were expanding the brand. And I used to go door to door. We used to sell shirts. I used to have them in the back of my trunk, selling shirts. You know, um, and it got to the point where we in the country itself, I mean, we were doing collaborations with different organizations, and we were invited to design shirts for government initiatives and independence. We got the official license to do independent shirts, and we were doing a lot in that span, between like 2005 to maybe like it was like a good 5 year stretch, somewhere around there. Um, so what happened now, and I I believe in trying to inspire next generation of young entrepreneurs. I always believed in bringing young men under my wing to train them and be like, listen, this is the steps that I made and I took to do X, Y, and Z. So, um, funny enough, there was a PBA second generation that was formed that did the same steps. Like they were throwing parties, they established themselves. One of those guys in that group, they were about 6 years behind me. He really kind of stood out to me, and I took him under my wing specifically, and I had him running Conscience. He started designing, and he started bringing in a whole new design feel and generational, like um, at the time of his generation, their style. I had my style, and he brought a different style to it as well. And he was pushing Conscience, and he was making money because he was trying to go off to school. So I said, listen, you take the brand, you know what I mean? Develop it, design, push it, learn business, learn how to balance money, learn how to understand stock and inventory. So I was training a couple young men as well through Conscience, because I always felt like Conscience, as I got older, I felt like I was getting out of touch to what Conscience was, because it was like, to me, it was like a young man's brand. It was like the energy and effort to put into Conscience. I was starting to wane on it. So that's why I brought in these younger guys who saw a fresh opportunity to kind of reinvent the brand as well. And they were doing photo shoots and they were planning all kind of different things. So they were learning a lot of skills through content development. I would say that conscience is still my baby. I haven't designed a shirt in I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. I still have all of the shirts though. I have them like in a special protective bag, just like with all my hoodies and shirts and different things like that. A funny story, just recently, um, my son Jazz, he was shooting for Gumbe Kids, which is a local television program. And one of my friends, he's on the production team there. He was wearing a conscience shirt, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
took a picture with him, right? So I told Jazz, I said, Jazz, I designed that shirt. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
no way, Dad, no way you designed that shirt. I was like, yeah, look, that's my shirt. I designed that. That's my logo. I
Mm-hmm.
did that, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And he was so blown away by it. I don't think he understands. He's getting older now. He's going to grade six.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's starting to kind of develop like, okay, Daddy isn't just regular. Daddy's done a he's done a lot of things and like and he does a lot of things and I think he's starting to kind of process that.
Yeah.
And I told him I was designing clothing, you know
Oh, okay.
um, he couldn't believe it. um,
So
so
where does the LuCairi come in? The timing with
so
LuCairi and conscience.
this is where LuCairi comes in. 2000, our 40th anniversary would be 2013 for the country.
Yeah, of independence.
Yeah, of independence. And my birthday is in February. So at the turn of 2013 in February, I was always into watches. I always loved watches. From I was a young boy, I always liked watches. I had ordered this watch for my birthday that was supposed to arrive before my birthday for me to wear. And it never arrived. And when I called the company, I was like, hey, I purchased this watch. I didn't get any information. It was like, oh, we can't sell you this watch because like we don't recognize Bahamas as a real country. And I was like, what? It's like, what do you mean? Like, this is a
Oh.
real place, you know? This is a real place. And I was so offended and so hurt that I told myself, you know what? I'm gonna never be denied again or have my country look disgraced. I'm gonna design my own watch.
Mm.
I'm gonna do my own watch, and no one could deny me my own watch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I, I want to say a regular person saying that is just kind of like, oh yeah, I would design my own watch. But when I make a statement like that, to me, that's not a on a whim. That's
Mm-hmm.
me saying to myself, I believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I can do it
Mm-hmm.
if I apply myself. And that's how it's always been for all of my previous ventures. I believe that I could throw parties. I believed if I put together a group of individuals, we would have been successful in the entertainment business. I believed that. So I manifested it and it happened. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that I could start a successful clothing line. And that's why how I operate is I don't like to tell people when I'm gonna do something. I do
Mm-hmm.
it and then tell them it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hey, I'm starting a clothing business. Oh, you don't know nothing about clothing. It's like, no, it's done. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you can't bring any negativity into this
Mm-hmm.
realm because it's already finished.
Mm-hmm.
You see? The
Mm-hmm.
problem why a lot of people don't get their businesses off the ground is they go to persons they trust, parents, siblings, spouse, whoever. Hey, I want to start this thing. They'd be like, no, that's not, I don't think that's right for you. I don't think you should do that. And then that kills a whole dream.
Yeah.
So for me, I I execute the dream and tell people it's done. I
Mm-hmm.
can't like You understand how crazy it is when I told someone I designed a watch, and they was just like, no, like Bahamians are not capable of that. This is what he told me. He's like, Bahamians are not capable of that. And I was like, no, it's actually done. And I'm Bahamian, so that means I am
Yeah.
capable,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So I I get into this. So okay, I didn't have a watch brand name. I didn't have nothing, no design. I just had the idea. Okay, Giorgio, you need to design a watch.
Someone told me no, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
make it a yes.
I'm
That's
gonna
what
make it a
that's
yes.
that was the
So
starting point.
correct. Um, 1 second. I just need to send a text message to this guy in a meeting. So I I started to think, okay, let's use this culmination of wisdom that you have accumulated through all of your other ventures. What do I need to do to make this successful? I said, okay, I need a name. I need something that is going to it's going to differentiate myself from other watch brands. That's going to be synonymous with the culture and something that can stand the test of time. So I was like, okay, like what you have to conceive something out of nothing because it's never been done. So I just kind of started thinking to myself, okay, Bahamas, Bahamians, archipelago, Arawaks, this, that, and I started doing research, and I was like, okay, I was like, LuCairi means people of the island. So I was like, okay, but that's too long for like a watch brand. So that's why it got short into LuCairi, into one word. Because
Okay.
most when you're developing like a brand like for sales, you don't want it too complicated in terms of like synonyms. So it's like, okay, Rolex, Omega,
Mm-hmm.
LuCairi. You understand? You want like a three
You want
syllable
it to be short. Yeah.
conscience, you know?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, LuCairi. I said, okay, so now let's start designing a logo. Obviously, I had the skills through my clothing venture,
Mm-hmm.
and I developed the logo. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's start thinking of a design, you know? So I developed a design of a watch. Now, at the time, I did not have any money to just go to one company to create one watch because it was going to be too expensive. So I came up with a genius idea. I was like, okay, if I buy the straps from this company and the dial from this company and the box from this company and the movement from this company, I'll just put it all together myself.
Like you
And
physically will put it all together.
correct. And that's how I was able to honestly create a watch brand because I you needed like at the time, let's say a minimum order of like 10,000. I couldn't afford that. So, but if I got just like 100 pieces of this and then 100 pieces of that, and like I was like, okay, I
Mm.
can do this and do that. So like the movement was coming out of Hong Kong, the case was coming out of Sweden, the straps were coming out of Italy, and it was just like all this stuff was kind of like just, and I was melding it together, you know. And at this time, Independence is July 10th. So this is February. The idea was conceived. I started working in the background
Yeah.
as Independence was approaching. I did not have the watch yet. It was not. It wasn't in my hand, but
Mm-hmm.
I had to move on faith that it was going to be here in time for Independence for my launch.
Mm-hmm.
I had to launch and
The
um,
momentum.
get that momentum from Independence, our 40th year independence. So I booked the Hilton out. I had a press release. I did all of this stuff at the whole media outlet, and I did not have the watch yet. I wasn't even sure on the quality of it. You understand?
Yeah,
The
because it's the
watch,
very first time.
it literally came a day before the actual event. FedEx direct from like I was in like Sweden. Yeah, it came from like Sweden.
Yeah.
FedEx. And when
Were
I
you
opened,
sleeping that week? Were you sleeping?
actually the whole process was hard to sleep because of the time zone, especially given Hong Kong was like 12 hours.
Yeah.
So usually I would wake up, um, like, I don't know, I would try to go to sleep like, 6 p.m., wake up like 9 p.m., because that's when people in China are kind of starting their work day. And
Yeah.
we would be going over design sketches and going over this and like doing that. And like I would be doing that till 2, 3 in the morning. And I would try to get to sleep and wake back up. Because at the time I was working at Genesis. I think I'd started somewhere around there, but my time wasn't as harsh, was it? It wasn't as bad because was Jazz born? Yes, Jazz was born in August of 2013. So
Okay.
I did a lot of this.
So you also had a heavily pregnant wife.
Yes, heavily pregnant, trying to launch a watch company. I mean, I remember it clear as day, because he would have been born essentially a month later in August. So you look at the pictures, like at the launch, Lyric was like super pregnant. Um, so the watch came, I opened the box up and I was like, please, Lord, please let this look good. Please don't let this be crap. Like, don't let this be that. When I opened it, I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. I'm gonna launch. So let's do it.
Yeah.
So we had the launch the next day. I had only did 40 pieces. So my first initial launch was just my plan only was to just do this 40 limited edition watches.
Yeah.
I'm talking like across the Bahamas. I had persons in Spanish Wells, like they flew me there. I came with like I sold like four in one morning in Spanish Wells, and they were roughly 1,492. That's how much they were. 1,500.
Oh, okay.
1,492. Yeah.
So everyone international 1492 is the year that Columbus landed in the Bahamas.
The Bahamas, right? So I sold them for 1,492, which is like
Symbolic.
it's so symbolic on so many deep levels.
Yeah.
You know, our 40th year of independence. The brand is called LuCairi.
Yeah.
The price is 1492. You know, it was like
Very intentional.
it was a combination of things. Yeah, even the booklet. So the booklet design that I did when you got your watch
Mm-hmm.
has like this history of the Bahamas and how when Columbus came and like how the Arawaks, they were peaceful, and then they came and then enslaved us, and then the transitions into like the colonialism era, and then PLP, becoming in power, and then we're becoming free, and like it was very, very deep. It was extremely, extremely deep,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a handwritten note in every watch, and it was signed by me personally.
Yeah.
There were so many personal touches that I did.
That it
With
almost was bespoke for each person.
it was,
Yeah.
I sold out all, and I started saying to myself, okay, this is actually like maybe a legit business, because
Yeah.
at the time I was only doing it to launch the watch.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So then I came up with another watch line, which was called the Island Heritage line. That's the one that had the Bahamian archipelago in the dials.
Mm.
And that's when, so initially I had approached John Bull to sell the first 40th watches. But at the time, I don't think they took me seriously. Like, okay, this is just an idea. This doesn't seem like serious. But after I launched, they're like, hey, come, hey, let's talk, let's have a meeting, let's see what we can do, and we had a um, we had a deal in place. I was going to be forefront on the flagship store on Bay Street, which, think about this now, this was the first time a Bahamian product would have been featured in the forefront of their flagship store on Bay Street. I had my own booth displaying all of my watches. The first Bahamian product
Wow.
of this magnitude sold in John Bull in the entire history.
Yeah. So again, for international people, John Bull is a high-end boutique in the center of the city.
Yeah.
So, and the color, the same way you think of like Tiffany blue being iconic, they have a similar sort of turquoisey. What color would you say that is? Like
Yeah,
a
it's actually pretty close. Yeah,
close to the
pretty
Tiffany
close.
blue. And
Yeah,
so if you see that color bag, then you know, oh, that's John Bull. So this is a very prestigious. It would have been a very prestigious moment.
correct. I remember when we signed the deal, and I used to come in. So at the time, I used to personally hand deliver all the watches. I knew all the clients. And then it got to a point where because they were selling them, I would just be at dinner and I see someone wearing a watch. I'd be like, oh, shoot, look at that. That's one of my watches, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
I'd just tap them and be like, nice watch. And they'd be like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be like a double take. And
Yeah.
I remember those times. It was just such a. I was Jazz had just been born. I was 26, I think 26, 27.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, it was everywhere. First Bahamian Greats watch and XYZ, and I was on publications and news and this and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it started to get kind of toxin too, though, because Jazz was kind of getting older. The effort and energy you need to put into these things, it takes you away from your family, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I needed more help because at this time I always did everything by myself.
Yeah.
Everything. I always did everything by myself. I managed it. I marketed. I did this. I did that. And I had to realize that there was room for some expansions during the brand. Um, as I continued to create more watches and sales were doing good. This was 2000 and I think 15 or 16. So um, every so often I would take the watches out of Jumble and then service them, make sure the movements are working, different things like that.
Okay.
When I took the watches home, I was traveling the next day to go away. While I was away, they broke into my office and stole all the watches,
Oh,
everything.
wow.
Even prototype watches I was working on, supplies that I had, they stole everything. And the 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 hurt and the pain from that is something that I still kind of feel like people always asking me like, why didn't you go start it again? And I'm just like, I just don't
Mm,
have the right now. I'm just still not in the mental space to want to go and to do it. I
yeah.
mean, people love the brand. I mean, they love the watches. It's
Yeah.
it's almost mythical at this point. It's like
Mm,
I always wanted to watch, but I couldn't get one. But now I could get one. Now
yeah.
like
Now I can afford it.
now I can afford it. Like, and they're like, but you don't have any more and things like that. So
Mm,
I I don't think it's dead. It's
mm-hmm.
just not. It's not where I am at right now. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. I want to do it, but I have to be inspired. I have to feel something. And then even as the 50th independent approach, I thought to myself, okay, since I did a 40th watch, I
Maybe
should
you
do
do
a
it 50th.
50th watch. But my life is in such a totally different place than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
responsibility I have now and the businesses that I run and everything
Yeah.
else, like I
There's
could
no
not find the time
space. Yeah.
creatively to conceive something.
Mm, yeah.
Um, because even with the school, all of this is going on while we are building Genesis, while we are building this brand. And,
Yeah.
when I came in, I think we maybe had like 70 students, and now we have like 250 students. We only went to grade 6, now we go to grade 12, and we have multiple campuses, and, the
Yeah.
staff members, we had like 45. We had like maybe 15 to 20 back then. So like the responsibility of running a successful school is extremely taxing as well.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Running a successful real estate career is taxing. That's my time, and everybody has to kind of figure this out. You only have so much time in a day, and you have to ask yourself, what is it that I want to do with that time? Do I want to use that time to just watch TV and be on Netflix, or do I want to pursue my passions? But you only could pursue so much passion with so much time. You know,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
um, I wanted to become a DJ. And I asked myself, Giorgio, how are you going to fit this thing that
Mm-hmm.
you want to do in everything that you are involved in? And it literally just starts with you. So I said, okay, last year on my birthday, it's always for my birthday, I get like inspired.
Yeah.
I bought a DJ mixer, don't know nothing about DJing, don't know nothing. And I just say, okay, I'm going to dedicate 1 hour every day to learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then before I knew it, I was DJing and I was actually good and I was putting out mixes and I was being invited to DJ at different events and different things like that. The feeling I get from DJing is different from any other thing like clothing and 1 second. Just need to disarm an alarm. 1 second. Um, DJ. So there was a feeling of being a DJ takes me back to PBA days, to
Mm-hmm.
entertainment, to like providing this mode of expression for people,
Mm-hmm.
which is how I started. I started essentially in the entertainment business. So me coming full circle now that I'm a DJ and I want to entertain people, that to me is brings back that childhood memory of me. So that's why I enjoy doing it. It's not so much on the financial end because to be a DJ and understand that you want to make a living and a career, you have to be willing to sacrifice a lot of your time. Meaning, you're
Yeah.
in clubs 12 to about 4 a.m. That's not something that I'm prepared to do. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the space I'm in right now, where I can pick and choose gigs that I want to be a part of. And my music is also very specific. If you want some down home soca party, then that's not
Yeah.
what.
It's like a house DJ.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the school, Genesis Academy, how is that venture different from these other ones? So you mentioned, you've been doing everything by yourself when it came to the watch company. You were the leader, the lead designer for Conscience, the lead
Yeah.
entertainment business head for PBA, but you married into a family where
Right.
Genesis Academy was already started. So how is that? How did that feel differently for you? How did you manage, not being the big boss and now you're growing the business together, obviously still successfully.
Correct. It was a learning curve. Definitely was a learning curve. I've learned more about myself in being to learn to take criticism and correction. When you've just always been a boss, you've never taken any like you don't take any correction. It's always internal. You just correct, you self-correct it. But in this space, we have an administrative, we sit down, everybody has ideas and different things like that. And sometimes the decisions I make may not be the best. And I'm corrected on that. And I have to be very humble about it, and understanding that this is a part of growing as a leader as well, learning to take correction, learning to understand when you're wrong. Um, I just been so fortunate. I've been bypassing that most of my entire life, and all the various jobs I've had has always been a very small situation. Um, like it was just me and Stefan in the airbrush shop. Everything has always been very small. I worked with my dad for a number of years. We were doing offshore banking. Um, Also, I forgot to mention during this period, I was going to school in the evenings. Um, all of that was happening at the same time as well. So I went to school for finance. I did my bachelor's in finance and my master's in finance. Um, and even that is like, that's so different from what I do, what my passions are. I love creating, I love art. I love, creating content and this and that. But like finance is just it's not sexy. It's not, it's not some fun thing. It's just finance. It's the management of money and stuff like that. But like That's why when I told people like, oh yeah, I do finance, it's like, oh okay. I'm like, oh, I'm a DJ. And like, oh yeah, So it's like it's always a different reaction, when you tell people you're doing something fun.
Yeah. But
But
with
yeah.
the school, so what's your role there? And then how have
Mhm.
you found like your marketing prowess, your ability to tap into sort of the sense of the times? Has that been part of growing Genesis Academy? Because
Mhm.
I remember when it started, it wasn't a school when I was little. It wasn't an option for me to go to
Correct.
school. And now my youngest brother, everybody, my
Yeah.
youngest brother graduated from the school, from Giorgio's family school.
Yeah.
And because of my mom, she has friends who have younger children, and she's like, yeah, everybody wants to go to Genesis Academy now. Like, it's
Mhm.
the place that people want to send their children. So watching that development has been incredible. And yeah, I'm wondering if you're
Yes.
what.
So I'm the operations manager. So I essentially, that means I do everything. That's all that really means. It's a glorified title of I do everything. Um, I we had a vision and goal for the school, and we put a roadmap in place that w- we aren't as old as Queens College or St. Anne's, these schools that are like 100-year old. How do we break the mold? How do we step in and like make our mark? And we decided the only way we can actually beat them is to just improve our quality of education individually for each student. Meaning, you're not just a number, you're not just a person sitting in the classroom. We really form relationships with the students and the parents to try and bring out the best in each student. And
Mm-hmm,
that's what parents appreciate the most
mm-hmm,
when, a grade now in Queens College has like 100 and maybe 20, 30 students in one grade, let's say grade 7.
mm-hmm,
We have a smaller classroom on, so our whole high school from 7 to 12 only has like 120.
mm-hmm,
So we're able to really hone in on each individual student's needs while still functioning as a regular school. We still participate in track and field and basketball and everything else like that. So we operate a small school model, but we still provide the same quality education as a bigger school would as well. So we have been able to consistently pierce the market and establish our name as one of the
mm-hmm,
premier schools
mm-hmm,
in the entire Bahamas. And
mm-hmm.
that's because our administration, we are very intentional on everything we do, how we communicate to parents, how we communicate to students. You know, what is it that we are really trying to instill in students when they leave these doors? That's something very important for us. And through that, the brand of Genesis has been able to establish itself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
of course, I brought a lot of my branding
experience.
ideas and
Yeah,
experience and all those things. Honestly, at Genesis, I use every talent that I have ever had here,
yeah,
whether it be marketing, management, people, public relations, and um, buying and inventory and everything, and technology usage, and every talent that I possess, I actually use here at the school, which is
yeah,
very interesting. I don't know how God designed it that every talent He gave me is being used here
yeah.
at school.
When you were engaged to Lyric and you were thinking, okay, what is our future going to look like together? Did you have this plan that you were going to be such a big part of Genesis?
No, not one. Nope, not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all. What had happened was when we got married, I got into real estate. I started real estate. I got my license. I was in real estate. Um, but the market was taking some ups and downs, but I was still kind of fighting. But I was applying for more accounting and finance jobs at
mm,
the time. Um, this is like after 2009, the market had really went down in the financial sector, so it was pretty tough. But
mm-hmm,
what really happened was Mrs. Hannah, which is the principal and owner and founder, she got sick, and Lyric at the time was just a grade 6 teacher,
mm-hmm,
and she had to step up into a more leadership role. And
mm,
when she took a more leadership role on, obviously I started kind of getting exposed to what the inner workings of the operation was. And I
Okay.
started saying, I was like, hey, you're doing this wrong, right? Y'all should be doing it this way. And like, I was just kind of like chiming in
Helpful
and
husband.
yep, yeah, being helpful. And I was like, okay, I'll come in one day and check your finances to see.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I said, okay, no, it shouldn't be done like this. I started kind of putting policies in place, and I started
Mm-hmm.
coming back the next day, and the next day, and then I was just like,
There every day.
there, I was here, and I have not left, and that has been 11 years ago,
Uh,
or 12, no, 13.
a while.
I think it's 13, 12 or 13 years. I
Yeah.
I have not left, but it's it still aligns with my goals
Mm-hmm.
as an individual because yeah, I did not start this business, but I am very much a part of it, and we are able to manage our time accordingly. If I
Mm-hmm.
need to do something tomorrow, that's how I'm able to balance real estate
Mm-hmm.
and be successful in real estate because I'm not essentially tied to the desk where I need my boss's permission to step out and do certain things. So
Mm-hmm.
being here, if it didn't align with my personal goals, I don't think I would be here this long
Yeah.
because I still have the flexibility and freedom to pursue my passions in other areas. I still enjoy being here and being a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, you know, ideally, it's always a time versus money situation. A doctor who went to school for 20 years, you know, is going to come back and be successful in their field, whatever it is, and they're going to make a lot of money. But a lot of time is required from them as well.
Yeah.
Um, you could have not gone to school and not done certain things, and you have more time than money. You understand? Where is the balance between you're making enough money, but then you're able to support your time?
Yeah.
That's the balance what everybody wants to find. They want to make enough money to stay in their lifestyle, but they want to have access to time. And the question is as a young entrepreneur, is when do you find the balance? When do you set your parameters to say, okay, at this age, I expect to be making X amount of dollars and I expect to have this amount of time, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Well, not everyone does that, you know? That's
correct.
a particular way of thinking and being in the world, setting a particular way of goal setting as well. Like these are my targets, as opposed to I want to live this kind of life. That's not very specific.
No.
Or I thought by now I would have been,
Right.
married or
Yeah.
whatever people say, but they don't set a goal and a target.
Mhm. Yeah. I've been always, I need to set targets. I need to set expectations on myself. I
Mm-hmm.
need to say, so I'm 38 now. I'm going to be 40, Lord willing, in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's some goals that I want to achieve before 40. And in order for me to do that, I have to manage my time and my money. I have to do both, you
Mm-hmm.
know. My kids are getting older. They require more time from me. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't just stretch myself so thin
Mm-hmm.
where they don't get the time that I need with them, especially because I didn't get that exact relationship with my dad. Um, so it's important for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So what skill do you have naturally? I feel like I could guess, but you have naturally that you've leveraged through all of these ventures.
It, when primary school, when there's a group project that needs to get done,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one to come up with the idea and
Mm,
direct people like that. I can conceive the idea and figure out how to get it done and put the persons in place. Like, I'm not a good writer, but you can write, you
mhm,
can do this, you can do
mhm,
that. I'm very good at seeing the bigger picture and plugging persons into their specific roles to make whatever it is we're trying to achieve better, you know?
mhm,
Um, and that's through all my ventures, even with conscience. Like, I brought in my friend who was good in logistics,
mm.
shipping out the shirts,
Okay.
purchasing stuff like that. I enlist my other friend who was good at marketing and public relations. Like, so I was doing the designs and coming up with the idea and the concepts, but I realized that I couldn't do it by myself.
Yeah.
So I brought in key persons who I needed to be successful.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
and
that
that's
points
something
to
that's
another.
one of
Yeah,
my
I
yeah
was going to say it points to another one of your strengths, which is your relationships with other people. You're very
correct
strong relationally, not just, oh, that's my good friend and I'm a good friend, but being able to identify a skill that someone has, like, oh, this person is good in logistics, or
yeah
like you said, this person's good in writing, and then wanting them to come along with you. Because you didn't say, remember in the beginning, you were saying, oh, everyone was being a packing boy and I don't want to be a packing boy. Well, I'm not just going to look out for me, Giorgio, and not be a
yeah
packing boy. How can all of my friends win with me?
correct
And then with conscience, okay, you could see it's not really aligning with where you want to go in your time as you're getting older, and you're seeing this is more of a young person's energetic
yeah
domain. And I want to mentor them. So let me bring them in and help them so they're growing and I'm growing at the same time. And that's another skill that I see as we're talking that you really leveraged
yeah
naturally. Now I want to know about something that's been challenging for you that you've needed all the way through or right now that you're like, okay, this doesn't come naturally, but I'm constantly working on it because it's so necessary.
um I think it's what I alluded to with what I learned through Genesis, and it's how to take constructive criticism without being offended. Like I struggle. I struggle sometimes. I struggle sometimes with taking constructive criticism. Like, maybe you shouldn't have done this, or you know what I mean. And I'm because of who I am, and I don't care. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care what you're saying. Like, I can get very tunnel visioned, and I need to learn to understand other person's point of views, especially when it is beneficial. I that's the problem a CEO or any boss can have. You've been the boss for so long that when an employee comes and says, Mr. Knowles, I believe that we could do this differently. I'm like, no, I put that in place. That's right. As
Mm-hmm.
opposed to actually saying, okay, you know what, you're right. Let's sit down and try rework this situation and see if it actually is going to be more cost effective or more beneficial or whatever it is.
Mm,
Um, that's been one of my definitely weaknesses, and just having a kind of tunnel vision when it comes to constructive criticism and advice, kind of,
mhm.
But I'm working on it. I think I'm there. I think
Yeah, and
older
I
now,
think
I'm wiser.
I think the goal with that question too is to see what do you need? What have you needed to be this successful?
Mhm.
And some things definitely come naturally, like being an ideator, having these ideas, being able to see and invite people into your vision and getting them excited about your vision. And then
Mhm.
some things you're like, oh, this is hard for me, but I need it. I know that it's gonna be
Correct.
beneficial, like taking constructive criticism.
Correct. And this goes way back to one of my, and this is why I kind of fights with my core belief is like, I don't like to approach people and say, oh, I have an idea if I want to do something. No, I like to do it on my own, no input from
Mm,
nobody, and
mm,
then, like, look, I did it.
mhm.
Look, you see, and that's the kind of like,
Yeah,
it's, if I did listen to somebody, maybe they would steer me a different way, and I'm scared that I don't want my dreams to be hindered by their lack of confidence. You know,
yeah,
and that happens a lot. As entrepreneurs, that happens a lot. Is you show your product to somebody who lacks confidence, and they just kill your own dream.
yeah,
That's why you have to be so sure of whatever you're doing, despite outside input. You
yeah,
have to be sure. You have to be, and it comes from the people you love the most. Sometimes you have to tell them, "This is what I'm doing.
yeah,
This is what I'm doing. I'm sorry." You know
yeah.
what I mean?
What about when it comes time to say, I'm going to let go? Because that's been a part of your journey as
Correct.
well. You've not just had the one business and then kept it or this is so lucrative, it's making so much money, I just
Yeah.
have to keep going and figuring it out. You know when to cut ties.
Um, I think as you grow and mature, this comes back to that same question of time versus money. It's like, yeah, I could spend more time doing this. It'll take away my time. I'll be earning money, but I really want to find that sweet spot where I'm not putting as much time as on a particular project, but I want to be comfortable. So you have to kind of understand when at different stages in life you have different needs and wants. Like as I'm approaching 40 now, my happiness or what I get from what makes me happy now is not what made me happy at 30. Like now I enjoy gardening, doing the lawn. Well, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
That's we didn't even get to touch on that, but that's a whole other thing. Like I enjoy yard work, and I enjoy watching my flowers grow, and I
Yeah.
that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Now, 10 years ago, would I have been
The same
happy
way.
being in the yard planting trees and like doing stuff? Hell no.
Yeah.
You understand? Um, hell no.
Yeah.
But as you get older, I just think you take on y- your perception of what makes you happy changes.
Hmm.
You know, I like being home now. I like being in my yard. I like
Yeah.
that's what I like.
So,
Before,
are
no,
you, yeah. So you're saying if you're pursuing a venture, you need to regularly evaluate how is
yourself,
this aligning with my values and my
yeah, and
priorities.
your current self.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
like with conscience, as I got older, I was like, this is not aligning with my current self.
Yeah.
I don't want to be to parties selling shirts.
Yeah.
You
I
know
don't
what I
want to be
mean?
carrying shirts in my trunk.
No, I don't want to be doing that. And like
Yeah.
that's honestly comes with self-evaluating where and what your happiness is right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that leads me to another question, which
Mhm.
is how do you trust yourself? Because you mentioned earlier about your deep levels of belief. Like I
Mhm.
believed I could do this. I believed that with enough people behind me, we could be successful at these
Mhm.
parties. And when you say, I'm going to close the door or the chapter on this venture and start something new, you're not sure how the new thing is going to turn out. You don't know
No.
what's going to be there. So what do you do? Do you have any advice for people who need to trust themselves or strengthen that muscle?
Um, you honestly and I don't want to say this to offend anybody, but everybody likes to wave this entrepreneur flag now. I'm an entrepreneur. Look at me. But when the rubber hits the road, when times are hard, do you still have what it takes to move forward? I can remember in conscience, my business partner D'Angelo. We always go back to this time when all the boxes and the shirts were stacked up in my bedroom. Like all I could do was just kind of walk around and get to my bed and go to sleep. And we used to deliver so many shirts, and we would be so broke. We remember every paycheck we got, we just put it back in conscience. And it was like friends were going out to the club, and we was like, well, we can't go. Like we're building a brand. You had to what there has to be a level of sacrifice you are willing to take in order to be successful. And what that sacrifice means to me might mean different to you.
Mm-hmm.
For us, we were sacrificing time with our family and our friends. We were sacrificing our resources, our
Mm-hmm.
money.
Mm-hmm.
We were sacrificing our reputation because we were pushing this brand. If it failed, it would have looked bad on us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were sacrificing relationships. I mean, like with starting a relationship with a girl is like, listen, my focus is my business right now. It's not on taking you out to Green Park or wherever. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's all about making my business successful,
Mm-hmm.
and what are you willing to sacrifice? There's a saying that I use now. Um, uh, it's the idea of it is, if it didn't cost me anything, it's not worth it. If it didn't, like, whatever business, whatever you're doing, it has to cost something. There is a cost, there is a tax to starting a business. And if you could just start one and it didn't cost you anything, then you're not going to care as much. It's not going to mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all aspects of life, you know.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all
true.
aspects. If your degree did not cost you something, then it was not worth it. If this relationship, you're not prepared to sacrifice something to make it work, then it's not worth it. Like, that applies to almost everything you do. You know,
Yeah,
always is a level of sacrifice,
for something
cost.
valuable.
Correct.
Yeah. So I know we're like at the end of time, and we haven't really touched on the real estate side of
Yeah.
your business. So if you want to just tell us briefly, like, what's your
Mhm.
vision for that
Mhm.
venture in your life?
So I got into real estate in 2014. Was it 2014? No, when I got married. It's 2012. These dates now, I have so much dates of businesses and ventures and stuff. But I was in real estate, but the market had taken a deep turn, and jazz was born, and I was like, okay, this isn't working out. And at the time, you could not be a licensed real estate agent and have a full time job.
Mm,
Well, they changed that law when they realized that persons just couldn't sustain themselves solely being a real estate agent.
mm,
My friend Danny Lowe, he started his own company called the Agency. Well, it's actually a part of the bigger brand, the Agency Real Estate, which is out of Beverly Hills with
mm-hmm,
Mario Umansky. And when he had his vision of starting his company, he said, I was in it. He was like, listen, you come in, dust off the cape,
mm-hmm.
put on the Superman clothes, like, I need you on my team. You understand? And at the time, I had just finished my master's degree, and there was a sort of a void because I had put so much into completing my master's degree. And just a side note, my finance exam score was the top 1% in the world, bro.
No way.
So, like, don't just think I design shirts, people. You know, but see, because I do so much fun things, people tend to overlook my actual. Um,
No, what happens is people think it's easy. They don't
yeah,
recognize the skill that's involved because you're so affable and
yeah,
gregarious and you're really good with relationships, and they're like,
right,
"Oh, Giorgio did that. Oh, Giorgio did
yeah,
that." It's just because he's so fun. And
yeah.
you're like,
I know.
"No."
I'm actually smart, people. Actually, I'm actually pretty
And he's
smart.
so
Okay.
stylish. We didn't actually talk about that either.
Yeah,
Like, he
yeah,
has a real aesthetic vision for
mhm,
everything that he does. You know, we were talking about the booklet and the
yeah.
handwritten notes for everything. It all plays a
It
part.
all culminates. Yeah, that's why I said
So
my financial. I do financial consulting. Like, that always gets overlooked by all the other
the other
things that are
things,
more like fun. As I was telling you, like,
more
oh, you're a real
showy.
estate agent. You're selling like $1 million houses. You know what I mean? It's just like the financial consultants just be like, oh, okay, that's cool, but
That's
that's actually
stable.
hard. That's actually hard. But anyway, um, after I finished that, I had put so much time and effort into that, like, I just had this time gap that I had blocked out for years where I was
Mm,
studying and reading and homework and assignments and this and that. That I was like, what am I going to do with this time that I've this block? And when he
mhm.
approached me, I was like, that's it. Let's get back into real estate. And I came out the gate like strong, like, and again, in real estate, I used all of the knowledge that I gained from the beginning
Yeah,
to put together a outlet or platform that where, like, I don't know if you remember seeing the launch video I did. It just had a combination of all these stuff I was doing in my entire life, and it was like, listen, everything has now come full circle. I'm back in
mhm,
real estate. I'm
mhm.
taking all the gifts and talents that I've learned, and I'm gonna, like, put into real estate to find you the perfect home, to find you the best investment. You know what I mean? So it's been going extremely well. I set goals for myself, as you know, every year, and this is
Mm-hmm.
no different in real estate. I tell
Mm-hmm.
myself, I want to make X amount of dollars in real estate. I want to do X amount of sales,
Mm-hmm.
and I do that so I know how much I have to put in. How much time do I need to sacrifice in order to reach those goals?
Mm-hmm.
And so far, I'm there. I'm setting my goals and I'm reaching them in
Mm.
real estate.
That's a skill, though. That's great. And it's a skill because
Yeah,
you practice setting the goals, you practice reaching them. And it's like, oh, do I need to calibrate? Do I need
correct.
to
Do I need to
adjust?
do more listings? Do I need to go out more and do this? Do I, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Do I
So
need to meet more people?
correct. It's always based on you have to set yourself some realistic goals. I
Yeah.
know I may not be selling the $25 million home now, but I have that in my goal list in 5 years. If I stay on this current path and I build my clientele and I do this,
Inevitable.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this has been such a great conversation.
yeah,
And some things just that I want to point out for people, common threads. One of them, as we were saying, is goals. You've always been motivated by a goal. You needed money when you were in high school, and so you came up with the entertainment company. You love watches, and you couldn't get a watch from this company because they said some
bogus.
completely,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't even know what to call it. Like politically incorrect does not cover it. Statement about not recognizing the Bahamas. And then you use that to motivate you. And then the other thing I want to highlight as well or affirm is that nothing is wasted. So everything that you've
mhm.
done along the way, you're just
that's
building.
that's
You're
great. Nothing
building.
is wasted. That
Yeah.
is that is so real. Everything from then to now culminates to where I am in my life.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. And then I think too being strategic because you're thinking, okay, you're recognizing this works. I can leverage this in this scenario. I can leverage this in this scenario. And you're always affirming and believing in yourself so that you can see nothing is wasted. Because some people might be like, oh, I did that and then I don't think about it anymore. And you're like, well, this is how this works in this scenario. This is how I can use it to propel even further. So last question is advice for people they feel multi-passionate, they're
Hmm.
torn in a bunch of directions, or they're starting something new. What would you say to these entrepreneurs watching?
Um, I think just touch back on that point I had again. You may have different ideas and different that. What if you're not willing to sacrifice for that? Then it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to sacrifice for that particular thing, like when I was working, I was making maybe minimum wage. I don't know, 250, 350 per week. And when I graduated, and it was just like, okay, I need to take $100 and save every week in order to purchase the T-shirt thing to get conscience off the
Mm-hmm.
ground. And I mean, I had to sacrifice. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And some persons just want the end result without having to put in the work. You
Mm-hmm.
know, especially this new generation where things are so easy. Okay, I create a TikTok and get viral,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's my life.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to actually sitting down, mapping out a plan, doing this, and putting the tools together and market research and all these different things like that. I'm blessed that I come up in two kind of generations. I'm the generation without technology, so I had to like actually work hard and like physically do a
Hand
lot
out
of stuff.
flyers.
And I came up when technology was on the rise and understanding how to market, with technology. How do I use Facebook and leverage that? How do I use Instagram and leverage that? So like I'm come up in two sides. They call us the bridge generation because we know what it is to not have technology and what it is now we're living with technology.
Mm, okay. That's great advice and a great litmus test too. Because if you're not willing to sacrifice, then maybe that means let it go. You have to
Yeah.
find something else that you are willing to sacrifice for.
Just one more notice, like, don't feel ashamed. Everybody is not meant to be an entrepreneur. Some people are just meant to work in the corporate office and, do that thing.
And make a
Everybody
great
isn't meant.
career.
Yeah, everybody is just not meant. Everybody wants this title of entrepreneur, but I'm telling you, like, it's not easy. It's not pretty. There's so much
Mhm.
that happens in the background, and maybe just being in your career, whatever that is, corporate, or that's fine. Don't feel less of a person because you don't have some creative business or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I just feel like some people try to, like, I've had friends, like, he's into music. He went to school for music, and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna stop this and start trading stocks." And I'm just like, bro, that's nothing to do with what you did. I mean, I was like, try to. So there's two types of. I tell them there's two types of diversification. There's vertical. There's vertical diversification and horizontal diversification. I was like, that's like me. I own a school and now I'm selling car parts, right? I diversified vertically. That's a whole different industry. But
Hmm.
if I own a school and I start doing after school tutoring lessons with something, that's a
Hmm.
horizontal diversification, meaning it's in the same realm of how now I operate. I was
Hmm.
like, if you're trying to make some money, don't just go kill your music careers. Like, you need to figure out what you can do horizontally
Mm.
and diversify,
That's that strategic leverage brain at work, Giorgio.
I'm telling you, like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, bro, what do you mean with stocks? Like, what do you mean you're gonna go start trading? I was like, you are a skilled musician. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You are
Hmm.
one of the best. I was like,
Hmm.
ask yourself, how can you leverage that in your field, in your industry, and branch off and do something? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't just throw something out there that's just like because it
Well,
sounds cool.
yeah, I was going to say, people think, oh, well, it has to do with money. So, of course, I'm going to make more money. Or people there do so well. But it's like, okay, it sounds good, but it still takes effort and skill and sacrifice. And if you already have this specialty, like you were saying in music, how can you make that work for you?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's people take that advice. Remember that, like, try and diversify horizontally before you go vertically.
Vertically.
You know,
Solidify the horizontal. Like,
yes,
figure that out before you
correct.
go way and make things way harder to go vertical.
Like, in the pandemic, because we had invested so much into, like, technology, and, like, we had cameras in the classroom and different stuff like that. We had started an online school. Like, see, that's horizontal diversification. We used
Yeah.
all of our sources and
Yeah.
created an e-school
Yeah.
in the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that's how you have to think about things. How can I use my existing resources to diversify?
Absolutely. All right. So if anyone wants to reach out to you because they have a home to buy or sell or rent, or if they otherwise want to get in touch, how can they do that?
They can find me on Instagram at Baron of Brigadoon, Baron_Brigadoon.
Alrighty. And that's all going to be linked in the show notes, in the YouTube
Yeah.
description. So you can find Giorgio there. Reach out if this conversation was helpful and inspiring for you. I'm sure Giorgio would appreciate it. Let him know, shoot him a message. And this has been another episode in the Summer of Stories. Thank you so much, Giorgio. It's
Yay!
been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Appreciate it.
All right. So, everyone, if you are watching on YouTube, subscribe so you will know right away who the next guest is going to be and you can hop on and join us live. I will be back next week with another pioneering entrepreneur getting into the story behind their brand so that we can all learn something that we can take with us to build our own brands and our own lives to what we want them to be. So that's it for me this week. I will see you all next week and thanks for tuning in. Ciao for now.